Hello, and welcome to the Half-Betty podcast. I'm Krista, the producer and co-host, and today, as always, I'm joined by my friend, founder, and host, Andrea Rathborne. Half-Betty is a bold and vibrant community where midlife women come together to feel supported, inspired, informed, and deeply valued. It's a space where the stories of their next chapter take shape and the extraordinary potential of their second scene unfolds. I literally just got goosebumps. Our guest today is a Vancouver-based fashion designer who has been creating timeless, inclusive designs for over 20 years. I feel so honored to own a bunch of her pieces, and not only do they look beautiful on the red carpet, they feel incredible. Beyond her career in fashion, she has spent the last 6 years as the director of lived experience at Human in Motion Robotics, where she helps design cutting-edge exoskeletons, wearable robotic suits to enhance mobility and transform lives, including her own. Because you see, in 2015, she sustained a spinal cord injury due to an inoperable benign tumor, resulting in permanent loss of mobility in her legs. And since then, she's become a shining example of resilience and determination, proving that challenges can lead to extraordinary innovation and strength. Known for her kindness, creativity, hard work, and bold tenacity, Chloë continues to inspire those around her. I can't wait for us to dive into her story, insights on midlife, and the incredible work she's doing to redefine what's possible. Chloë Angus, welcome to the Half-Betty podcast.
Wow, that's such a nice introduction. Thank you, Krista and Andrea, for inviting me into this really cool space where you're having great conversations with ladies with such valuable lived experience at this point in time. And I'm honored just to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
And Krista and I obviously chatting in advance of these conversations and talking with one another around the folks that we're so honored to have as guests on this show in this early starting of what we're building together, which is a community, right? And as Krista was sharing the stories of her relationship with you and all the things that you've navigated and accomplished and dug into and taken on and what you've built and what you've designed. I sat there as I was listening to Krista sharing your story, and I had full body shivers that weren't going away. It was like, oh, these have just been turned on, an on button for goosebumps, and it's actually not turning off. And Krista and I have recognized that goosebumps, or the feeling of full body sense of awe, however that shows up, is one of the markers of these conversations that we're having. And to us, it feels like those are our kind of guide. They're telling us that we are having extraordinary conversations and that we are learning from the most amazing women. And we can't wait to jump into this conversation and hear from you and hear your story. And one of the things that we really like to start with is digging into the simplicity of 5 words or less or more. So I love the tenacity. I relate. So I'm just going to say, no holds bar. If you have 9, you go for it. But would you share with us perhaps some words that you feel really capture who Chloë is for us?
Well, to start with, Andrea, as a middle-aged woman, I'm really happy to turn anyone on. And if that's you, it's
well, it's happened. It's there.
But, all joking aside, I know what you mean by those goosebump conversations that really make you feel something. Obviously, a skin shiver to just really drive that point home. And that's what makes this so interesting. And as you say, really about, building a community around these interesting conversations is building communities is what women are so good at, is coming together to build communities, whether that's with each other to support them or whether that's as a whole, we're going to build a whole town and make it work, or globally. I'm still waiting for female takeover, but I believe that this is part of our superpower, is to create communities, spaces where people feel supported and heard and cared for. So thank you, ladies, for leading this incredible conversation community of ladies moving forward. And wow, describe myself. I often just keep it to the first letter of the alphabet, A. I'm an Angus. I am truly an Angus. And if you go back in Angus's all the way since we've been here building BC and Vancouver for a long time, the Angus family is large and we're all pretty out there, I guess. So I will own it. I am an Angus. I'm also an advocate, something that I find incredibly important in life. If you are lucky enough to be outspoken, I suppose, or have language as your skill or superpower, it is something that comes along with being an Angus, being outspoken. And I find that using that voice to be an advocate is really important to me in my life. There's a lot of people without the voice that I have. So not to speak for people, but to speak up. And the other part that has always just kept me barreling through my life with excitement is an adventurer. I'm truly about the adventure of life, whatever that is. Travel, career, people you meet, friends, family, all of it. It's all of one pretty big adventure. And I think that that's how I take on most things. Yeah, and all of those things, I would have used those words to also describe my dad, who was a great man, and I'm very like him in my family. So I put those 3 words forward. Yeah.
I love that. We can see the power of language when you can boil it down to, in this case, 3 words that captures so much, as you said, of who you are and where you've come from. That's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing. Do you want to maybe take us on a little bit of a journey? One of the things that we love is we refer to it as anchors in our story. And the anchors that we see for women in particular in midlife are those times that feel as though they are a catalyst moment where something happens to the person, because it could be a conversation. It could be something that is seen. It could be an experience, but there's something that occurs that becomes a moment of transformation or the beginning of transformation. And perhaps women in midlife have a number of those anchor points or catalysts, as we're calling them. But would you maybe take us to one of what you believe would be those transformation moments or catalysts, and then tell us a little bit of the story around that and take us through that experience?
Well, I've had quite an adventurous life, so I have to quickly flip through the Rolodex in my mind of what comes first. You know, I had a different childhood growing up very remotely on the Sunshine Coast on an organic seafood farm where my parents raised us, 5 kids, homeschooled, and life started out as a big adventure for me. And I learned how to sew when I was quite young. My mom taught me how to sew. My grandmother sewed, and she gave me a very small hand crank baby Singer sewing machine. And that was one of my first transformations. I pulled off Barbie's clothes and recreated what I wanted her to wear, something I thought was a little more elegant.
Yeah.
And that was a transformational moment for me because it started a passion in a little girl who lived far away, very remotely on a farm, and kind of decided at that point that fashion would be my passion in life, that it would be something that I would do. It didn't transform right away, obviously. There was in between that, but certainly led me to getting to a point in my mid to later 20s where I started to go, what am I doing in my life and what do I really want to do? Was running a landscaping company. I'd started a landscaping company a couple of years back and needed a job, and I worked one day for a lady who ran a landscaping company, and she was so bad at it that I thought, oh, well, I could do this on my own. So,
well done. Yes, I love that.
So at 23, I started my first business, a landscaping company that I worked and operated for a number of years successfully. And it grew to a point where I was looking at either expanding it and having it become more of what it was, or really looking at, is this what I wanted to do for the majority portion of my working years? Is this what I wanted? And when I really thought about it, I'd always wanted to pursue fashion. And to fashion design school was something I had no idea what exactly I would do with it or how successful it would be. I only wanted to check it off my life list. Like, you got to do that. You've had it in your mind since you were 6 years old. You've been making things. And at the very least, I thought I would at least be able to make better clothes for myself, you know?
Yeah.
Moved on from fashion design, from the landscaping company, and I went to fashion design school at 30. And I graduated from the Helen Lafaux School of Fashion Design, which was a small, independently operated school run by a very strict Eastern European woman who had incredible tailoring and couturier skills. So I went to that school, and when I got out, I had a few pieces in, at the time it was Vancouver Fashion Week, just starting out, and as a newly graduated student, I could enter for free. So I put a few pieces in the show and didn't think much of it. And I got a call from the buyer at the Canadian by Design department of the Bay, the Hudson Bay Company.
Oh, wow.
She was asking where I was at in my career, and I'm honest to a fault type of person. And I said, oh, I just graduated, and yeah, I'd like to maybe intern with somebody. And she said, oh, so you don't have a line out? And I said, well, no, not yet. But I could. And she said, well, no, you're at not a stage where I would be buying from you. So thanks very much. And I caught her before she could hang up on me. And I said, can I still take a few minutes of your time to come and see you and see why you called me? Like, what did you see on those few pieces on a runway in a show that was late and in a dark bar, and you still called me today? So she was quite a stern lady. And she said to me, Chloë, I've got 15 minutes on Thursday. Come and see me and don't expect anything. Meeting my first buyer, big fashion buyer. I went to see her, and I took what things I had and my passion and my vision for what I wanted to create in fashion, which was something that I didn't see myself out there. And this was in 2004. Sustainability was a real conversation in fashion, that's for sure. So I wanted to see what I thought was missing, which was diversity in women's looks, and in particular in age, that I really didn't see a lot of, fashion models that were something we could all aspire to aging gracefully as. So I went with this idea, and I was sitting across from a middle-aged lady who was a fashion buyer, and you can bet she wanted to see more of that. She's always grasping to find things that truly fit and work for a mature lady. Or for me, it was about creating that visual concept of seeing what you want to become. So I had this idea, and she said, well, Chloë, if you can come back and see me, I'll buy for fall in 6 months, and I'd be happy to look at your collection. And
in 6 months?
I jumped my career.
Oh my gosh. What was the first thing you did when you left there? Like, that is a pivotal moment. What happened?
Well, I remember walking out of there thinking, this is it. I got an opportunity, in Vancouver. I was thinking about looking for an intern job, and now I'm looking at creating a line and just diving into it. So I did. You just dive in, and probably great that I had that ignorant bliss of being 30 and having no idea what the fashion industry really is and what it would take to be successful. Never would have done it. So glad I didn't know then what I do know now, because it has been such an incredible adventure, this one.
Wow.
It's taken me all around the world, and runways and red carpets I never imagined being on, with celebrities and politicians and princesses. So what was ignorant bliss certainly led to diving in with both feet and just going, I'm going to do fashion. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it with diverse models. And I'm going to do it with my eye on our environment as well, on sustainability, which was really something that was not happening in 2004 when I was starting out. But I had come from this organic farming background where, it matters. Everything you do, every decision you make in your business affects the environment and affects the product you're going to produce. To go from that upbringing into the most polluting career I could choose, I definitely had some conflict there because how could I change it? I still wanted to make clothes, but what could we do differently? So recognizing right away that there are better choices we can make in fashion, even in 2004 when that wasn't being looked at. And that's where some of the fundamental basis for my company was founded, which is to make the best choices we can for fashion, for this sustainability and for the environment. And we can't do it 100% right and still build a successful business in the world today, but we can make every attempt to make the best choices that we can and continue to innovate and use new textiles and resort to old textiles that really truly work. Cottons and beautiful wools and silks and things that are now being able to be farmed sustainably. So that idea of just going, I'm going to make clothes that are good for people, as comfortable as they are beautiful, that will highlight things about women that they feel really confident and great about. I'll do that for you, no problem. So yeah, some of those fundamental things in starting out that was really important to me was on that inclusive vision of what that looked like throughout your age as a lady. Ladies of all different colors and cultures, really important. And then, of course, living in what we refer to as Canada, something that was really, really important to me to represent and advocate with and for is the Indigenous people and women and culture in Canada was a really important part of also growing that foundation of business and what was important. So in the small town that I had grown up in, predominantly Indigenous community, incredible opportunity for me to know so much more about the culture and the community than other people around me. So when I moved to Vancouver and finding out that there was a separation of people between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people and communities. They just were really separate. Whereas I came from a community where everybody was together because it was so small that we all came together in the community center to celebrate and to support or whatever it was. So when I moved to Vancouver, I really realized that there was a separation there of people and an opportunity to be together and to have these good community conversations. And I could see that wasn't really happening. So a way that I could bring it into my fold with the medium that I work in is fashion. So how through that can I also highlight this opportunity to get to know each other and creating a space where Indigenous and non-Indigenous people can come together and really appreciate each other. And that can often be done through art. And as I said, my art form is fashion. So that's when I really set out to work in a collaboration with First Nations Indigenous artists from across Canada that would be a collective work together where they were bringing the artwork portion and their cultural portion of what they wanted to see represented in fashion. And I could bring my expertise in making really good clothing, good quality clothing and clothing that was good for the environment as it was for the person. So that really rounds up that transformational moment of being a kid and having that little tiny sewing machine, growing up in that remote community, coming to the big city and seeing some lack of communication and find my voice and my way of speaking up, I guess you could say. So that's where I land today.
Hey friends, have you heard about Loba? If you take vitamins or supplements, you need to. Loba is this new, beautifully designed smart pill organizer that looks gorgeous in your space and is made to fit your life. It connects to Wi-Fi via the Loba app, where you set daily reminders for when it's time to take your pills. Loba then lights up in the color you've chosen for it to glow. It's designed to tap into the power of visual cues and ease mental load while contributing to better health and wellness. Plus, it's female-founded. Okay, now for the good part. They are offering halfbetty subscribers 10% off. Select your Loba pill and supplement organizer at shoploba.com using our exclusive discount code halfbetty, one word in all caps, at checkout. Again, that's code halfbetty for 10% off at shoploba.com. And be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at shop.loba.
I really appreciate how you wove that story to where you landed with the founding of your fashion design life and your chapter. A few of the things that really stood out for me as those sweet anchor moments was starting with that story about you as a child. So much of what we are as we go through life can be pulled back to childhood. We know that there's such deep anchors in childhood, and you describing that little hand-cranked singer, that image of you getting this beautiful gift as a child that allowed you to actually figure out very quickly that this was something for you, is so powerful, because as we were talking about, children gravitate to doing the things that they just love and what lights them up. And so when we think about what it is that we love as children, and we see that perhaps that is what pulls through, if we are doing that thing in its form in our adulthood or in our, our years later, we might even recognize that, oh gosh, this was exactly what I was meant to do because I did this as a child. It's taken on a new form. So I love how that kind of wove through this whole story, and the juxtaposition of living in a small town and remote, nature inspired, community centric to, living in Vancouver, where there's a much broader population, much more diversification amongst the folks that all gather together in Vancouver to make up the city and the Lower Mainland. But the fact that you had the other experience allowed you to see that there was opportunity to pull the community of Vancouver tighter together. And in the case that you're referring to, it was through that lens of your experience with the Indigenous folks that lived in the town that you lived in, and how everybody was just part of the same community, and how that could be perhaps replicated and advocated for in Vancouver. So really beautiful story. I relate, and I also had very small town childhood, and so much of what you're describing really resonated. I want to get us into this world of design and your passion for weaving in the care of the environment and the care of our natural world through the medium that you're bringing to life. And I know that as you started to get further into your design world, all kinds of new stories and adventures popped up for you. And will you take us to the time where you reached another catalyst that arrived in those years that we are now considering half-betty years, which are those mid-years, our midlife years as a woman?
Well, this one's pretty easy because it came like a sledgehammer at 40 years old. I got paralyzed. That's a fairly major life shift all the way across the board. And it comes down on you like a hammer one day, and your whole life changes in a way you could never imagine. I didn't even know a person in a wheelchair until I was in one. And what an eye-opening experience. It was 2015. My career was in one of the most successful years ever. I had more success than I ever imagined it to be, and we were riding high. I finished doing a major event. I was a fashion sponsor at that time for the Leo Awards. Pretty sure Krista was there. We dressed and 12 trophy models and more than a dozen celebrities over the course of a couple of days. but from the fashion side that I had to lead, no pressure or anything, just make it look like the Oscars.
Yeah.
Check, check, and check. We've done it for a number of years. By then, I was a pretty seasoned vet at it. That was one of the last times. About a week later, I was paralyzed. And I remember saying to my team, wow, man, I must have been working too much. Like, I need a couple of days off. My back's kind of sore, you know? I had a bit of a sore back. And I've always been a super healthy, really active person, never been sick in a day in my life. And this back pain was nagging me a little bit, you know? So my husband had gone away for the weekend to go fishing, and I stayed home to rest, and I had work to do, so it's a little bit busy. But I decided to, you know, go out for a run with my little jogging partner. His name is Sunny. He's my little miniature horse that I adopted. We'll insert Sunny's story really quick, which is where we found this little tiny horse abandoned, really needing a home. I put him in my backyard in Vancouver and just decided to care for him. And, you know, that was when I saved Sunny's life. But as you'll find out by the time we get to the end of this next transformation in my life at 40, becoming paralyzed, how Sunny actually ended up saving mine. So
my God,
that's another change for us. But so I went out for a run that afternoon, and I limped home because my right hip ached really bad. So it was later that evening, I felt some tingling on my right foot, my toes on my right foot. Felt really numb, and they stopped working. And my leg was really painful. And I thought, okay, I better get this checked out. I got a really busy Monday morning. So if I go into emergency now, like in the middle of the night, it'll take, 4 hours on average in Vancouver to get in and out of emergency. I should be ready for my 8 a.m. meeting. So I drove myself to the hospital, and things became a blur kind of after that. I guess they progressed fairly quickly, and that I was in the hospital and I was watching that tingling and numbness creep up one leg, and my right leg stopped working. And then the same thing started to happen on my left leg again. And I literally watched as my leg stopped working, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong or what had caused this. I had to call my sister, who thankfully is a highly trained nurse, and she came to see me in the hospital, and she took one look at me and she said, "Chloë, can you answer 2 questions? Can you wiggle your big toe? And can you remember last time you went pee?" And I couldn't. And she said, "Well, I don't know what happened to you, but these are signs of a spinal cord injury." And that's when a neurologist came to see me, and I was put into an MRI machine, and they discovered that I had a tumor. This is a benign tumor, which luckily that's what I found out later, but found a tumor in my spinal cord, and it was at waist level. And it's central in my spinal cord. It's a rare condition. Often these type of tumors or malformations are on the outside of a spinal cord and can be surgically removed. Mine, unfortunately, was central inside my spinal cord. So that was problematic for me. And what was causing the problem is that small tumor had a bleed, has a series of blood vessels in it. One of those vessels broke and caused a bleed of about 4 drops of blood into my very sensitive spinal cord, which caused enough swelling to pinch off all of the nerves below my waist. So I lost the use of both of my legs, and the best surgeon in the country came into my room and told me that I would never walk again, and that I would learn to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair. I was pretty shocked. I mean, this is shocking news for anybody who gets it, but to be running full tilt and to be brought to ground zero, I was just thinking, no way. This
not
does
me.
Not fit into my
No.
fashionable lifestyle. Like, I literally run a fashion design company. It takes a lot. You gotta go full speed, right?
Yeah.
So that was shocking for everyone around me, shocking for my husband, who was unable to speak because he didn't know how to help me or what he was going to do to change what was happening to me. And
he was away when you were in the hospital. Was your sister there when this news came from the doctor?
Luckily, my sister had come and was the one who really helped determine what was going on for me. They were actually about to discharge me. And if I had gone home, I probably would have died from a bladder exploding just because I didn't realize that my nerve had shut off the use of my bladder, bowel, and bladder.
Oh, wow.
And because I was unaware, I wouldn't have known.
No.
I was lucky that, like I said, I had my sister. But, here I am. I'm in the hospital room. This is the news I'm landed with. I just have to deal with it. Like, what am I going to do with this? And growing up in that little tiny community on that little tiny farm, way away from anything that could solve, anybody who could solve your problems, you have to solve your own problems with whatever you had. So that childhood of growing up like that gave me the ability to be that innovative thinker that I was. So now I'm lying in the hospital room thinking, what am I going to do to change my situation? Because not only was I learning about the incredible inaccessibility and the mass amount of barriers there are in the world if you're in a wheelchair, but I was also learning about the secondary health complications of living seated and being sedentary. And that was worse for me than accepting that I'd have to figure out how to get around in a chair. The idea that these secondary health complications really don't have anything to do with my injury and everything to do with being sedentary and being seated, not being upright and not moving like a walking human being. Pressure source, problems with circulation, bladder, muscle atrophy, bone density loss. I mean, the list just goes on. And so the idea that they were just going to put me into a wheelchair and leave me there, which is a technology that hasn't changed much in almost 300 years, didn't seem enough for me at that point. So I got onto Google and I started to look at ways I could help myself. And I came across this article from Popular Science magazine online, and it was about this new technology called an exoskeleton that was going to help paralyzed people walk again. And I remember just being like, oh, light bulb. Okay. Motorized pants. Yeah, that's all I need. Hey, Gabe, honey, don't worry about me anymore. Just worry about these.
Can we get it on Amazon? Where do we get one of these? Let's do
I'm back at work next week. I am good.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And unfortunately, at the time, it was 2015, and this technology was very new and it wasn't available. I couldn't just order one, but I'd seen it as an idea. And that was enough for me to be like, well, if we had those, we'd be up and moving. I could access the world around me and it would ward off all of those secondary health complications.
Yeah.
So I started to then go into my journey that everybody goes into when you have a spinal cord injury, which is your acute phase. And then you get to drop down, step down unit where you're getting a little better in the hospital. And then they book you into the rehabilitation center that's here. And, unfortunately, when I got there, it was really just a place where you were now like turn and burn 3 months in and out, learn your wheelchair skills, learn how to take care of yourself again, learn how to catheterize, learn how to get your pants on, learn your world again. So not a lot of time or focus put onto true rehabilitation. And so I started to ask about exoskeletons. And I said, what about getting me in an exoskeleton? Let me try that. I'm a really hard worker, and I've always approached things that if I work hard enough, I'll be able to do it. This was a big one. I still wanted my best chance at trying. But I was told that I would have to wait until I got out of the rehab center to maybe go and apply at a research center to be able to be a candidate for research. But that was months down the road. And what I was reading in early studies of exoskeleton use is the benefits with rehabilitation after spinal cord injury is immediate. You have to get in and have using what you have right away, or your brain is very efficient and just shuts down the paths you're not using. So with that idea, I really was advocating for myself. So I got back onto Google, searched around, and lo and behold, I found an article. And it was about how a local businessman, had donated an exoskeleton to GF Strong, where I was at. So I printed off that article and I rolled myself downstairs to the physiotherapy office. And I said, what about this one? This article says you have one of these here, do you?
Mm-hmm.
And they had to admit that they actually keep their exoskeleton in the closet in the gymnasium. And I'm like, okay, well, for starters, we all know that you don't keep your skeletons in the closet. Well, most of all, get it out because I want to try it. And I was already labeled as a complete injury with no chance of recovery. Therefore, wasting the HR dollars on the 3 physiotherapists that it would take to assist me in the device was not worth it. So I continued to advocate for myself and that I felt that because I had paid into the healthcare system my entire life. I've been working my entire life and I've paid into it and I deserved it. I didn't have a spinal cord injury because of a stupid decision I made. I just had it. And this is where in Canada, you think as a Canadian that you're proud of your country, you're proud of free healthcare. I fully believed in it and I fully supported it until the day I actually needed it and realized it's not what we think we have. And it has so much to be fixed. It's been an ongoing decline, our healthcare system, for a long, long time. And unfortunately, when I got injured, it was a really bad time. And I had to advocate very strongly for myself. So I did. And I won 8 treatments, 8 sessions to use this incredible wearable robotic suit that I had spotted there. And I remember that day, again, another transformational moment of being in the gymnasium, of having 3 people work with me to help me get into this heavy, cumbersome wearable robotic device that was available at the time. And it stood me up. And I walked across the gymnasium floor. After doctors all across the country told me I would never walk again, I was like, aha, this totally opened my eyes to what was possible. And not necessarily what was possible by myself physically, but what was possible with technology. I was up, I was walking. Unfortunately, by the end of those 8 sessions, I realized that this technology was in its early stages and it was pretty rudimentary. It's a device that, as I say, took 3 people to put onto me. I couldn't operate it independently. It stood me up and then I had to use a walker or arm crutches to stay balanced. It only moved me forward in a very robotic way. When I wanted to turn a corner, they literally had to grab me by the shoulders and turn my body and then I could march the other way. But as I say, it was that opportunity to see what was possible. And so in my mind, I just thought, oh, well, now we just need to make them better because this one's only in rehab center and I couldn't buy it and walk out of there and go back into my life with it. But I could see a vision that if we made it better, it could do that. So that was it. On this journey of technology and exoskeletons and cutting edge stuff that, until then, my whole life is really focused on creativity and working in arts. And it was a different world than stepping into the world of science and technology. I mean, wow, like all of a sudden I'm surrounded by engineers and programmers, and this is not a world I thought I would be in. But, after getting paralyzed, I could see that I needed to be there. So after those sessions were finished and I had this idea about needing to make better exoskeleton, I got back on Google. I emailed the handful of exoskeleton developers at the time around the world and enthusiastically volunteered my services to help them make a better exoskeleton. And
sorry, who are you?
You think you have a pretty good exoskeleton and who are you? So I ended up, of all of the things, finding 2 professors and a group of students at Simon Fraser University in Surrey.
Oh, wow.
that had an idea, a concept, or were building an advanced exoskeleton. And I was blown away. I can't believe that I found this in my own backyard when I was 15 years old. And I was literally
wow.
move across the world if that's what it took to go and try this technology that I was looking for. That I had this idea that if we made it an exoskeleton that could be used independently, that I would operate it myself. I wouldn't have to have attendants or people operating it for me. It would be self-balancing so that I wouldn't have to use arm crutches or a walker. I would be hands-free. So I have all these big ideas, and now I find this incredible team right in my own backyard. So I go and meet them, and met with Dr. Seemak Arzenpour and Dr. Ed Park, who were the professors, the co-founders of this idea, and a small group of students who had just done a feasibility test. And I met them and took a look at it. And at that point, they only had this little tiny rotating joint that was a proof of concept that could show that we could build an exoskeleton that had all the degrees of freedom of an able-bodied human that would allow us to be able to build an advanced exoskeleton that could be used independently in the world.
So fully articulated.
Got
it.
So when I saw that, I was like, this is what I'm looking for. And
wow.
we need to build this. You're going to build this, right? And at the time, the professors and the students were in the universities. They were like, yes, we want to, but we're not sure how or what we're going to do with it. And that's when I came in to be the why you're doing this, which is take one look at me and understand that I want my life back, the life I had before spinal cord injury that allowed me to access the world around me as an independent woman and that healthy, active person that I'd always been. So I've been stuck to them like glue ever since. We leap forward these number of years. We've had incredible adventures. I've been to London. I've been to Dubai and met the prince. I have walked in 5 different countries now, almost 250,000 steps since somebody told me I had to walk again. So together, the team at Human and Motion Robotics, co-founders and the team, we've been able to grow this incredible little company on morals, logic, and it's really built on pennies. And we just took it on, and I did everything that I could to support that company, to be the voice and to be the face and the reason and the push behind why we were doing this. Because wheelchairs are not our only choice now. It's not acceptable that you don't have other choices that keep people healthier and more active and more independent. So we've been able to grow this incredible company. We raised $10 million about a year and a half ago, partnered with some amazing Korean firm in Seoul, Korea, and opened our first Human and Motion Asia office there. We have doubled our team here in Vancouver over the last year, and we just received Health Canada approval to start selling our devices in Canada to clinics, hospitals, and research centers, which is where our technology will start out in the clinical rehab and hospital setting as our team continues with our ultimate goal of building exoskeletons for personal use, which is every day by everybody.
That is unbelievable. It's just so incredible. Yeah. And to know that you have been a part of that journey, making that happen. Was that ever a specific goal that you and the team were working towards? Or was it just a series of events that started to happen? And like, how long did that take? Was that 5 years? Was it 10 years? Was it always the goal?
It was always the goal that I said we needed exoskeletons for personal use for every day. Because, like Amy Winehouse said, nobody wants to go to rehab, right? Certainly nobody wants to stay there. So my experience in the hospital system and in the rehab system was so bad that I couldn't rely on them. It wasn't where I knew we could rely on it to have the uptake, to make the change that we needed. It's people driven that make change. It's not
of course.
It's policy follows people as long as people are outspoken enough. So it was really about, I had this vision that I need this in my life and other people do too. And then I don't have to go back to the hospital. I don't have to advocate for, the government to cover the physiotherapy that I need for the rest of my life because I'll have it in my exoskeleton. It's built in because the exoskeletons that we're building for the future will be your everything. They'll be my total gym. It's my personal assistant. It's my mobility device. It's all of the things that I need because we can take all this amazing technology that's out there and just implement it into this one fantastic wearable device that will allow people to move through their life independently after injury or later in life when we're all going to age.
Oh, yeah. That's coming.
Mobility issue. And you're not going to want a wheelchair or a walker any more than I do.
Yeah.
So let's do this now because I know that everybody's going to love them when they come out.
Hey friends, Krista here. Andrea and I are thrilled to offer an exclusive discount to our halfbetty subscribers. We've fallen in love with our Chelsea boots from Vancouver-based Co. They're soft, breathable, and handcrafted with 100% vegan, eco-friendly materials. As stylish as they are planet-friendly, this Canadian-founded brand proves you don't have to sacrifice style for sustainability. Featured in Vogue, Cosmo, Glamour, and Forbes, Vancouver-based Co. is offering our half-betty subscribers 50% off. You're welcome. Find the link in our show notes.
When you say, I'm the why is not, it is me in this moment, but I actually represent all the other millions of whys out there that need this. And if you don't start with this why, then we will never get to a place where all the others that are going to benefit from this are part of that solution. And I really love you being able to drive home how important it is to, one, advocate for others, but advocate for ourselves. And then to not take what we are given as the final word. We listen to so many people around us all the time who are experts, and they bring us value and they offer information and insights, and it's all valuable. We don't want to take away from what people are able to offer, but at no time should we ever take it as being the final word.
Never.
And if anything that I've taken from what you've shared is just the power in being able to stay curious, ask questions, advocate, and what else?
We're never at a place where we can't continue to be better and do better and come up with better ideas.
Love that.
Especially with technology on our side and the people behind it asking questions and saying, well, what else can it do?
Well, and so important that when we're talking about these technologies and the development of incredible technology and, technology as it continues, it does have this scary potential to do real harm to people.
Yeah.
But there's also a flip side that where technology has an incredible opportunity to improve people's lives in a really big way. And there's no one else that impacts more than the disabled community and how much technology has helped the disabled community participate in life around them in the fullest way possible. Independently as possible. So it's really important that when we are developing these technologies and products for specific needs, that we involve these specific needs in the earliest stage of development. And this is where I've been so lucky to be the voice, be the why, and be the lived experience behind the products we're developing at Human Emotion. So I'm grateful to the team for inviting me in. Sometimes I would say putting up with me on an ongoing basis because I'm never quiet. Well, it's also interesting to bring creative field and mindset into technology and to tech products. Which, we got to look at Apple. Apple is a tech company that is successful because of the creativity and the color that was put behind it when that really wasn't happening, jelly cases and candy colored computers like really set things apart. And so having that creative thinking mixed into that technical development at space is also really interesting. And then, of course, I see exoskeletons coming in all sorts of different custom colors with,
yes,
to fit the body really beautifully and come in a Burberry print,
Wow. Yes, please.
Yes, please. And I'm so proud to say this is what I live now, is that I have this incredible exoskeleton that I go to at the lab at Human and Motion Robotics in downtown Vancouver, and I can get into it myself independently. I put on the orthotics that I sewed the first rendition of in the studio downstairs, and I can stand up in it, operate it myself. I can walk around the room at multiple speeds. I can go up and down slopes and stairs, and I can crouch and
it's just
and you can dance.
It's unbelievable. It's so amazing.
And it will change everything for how people move in the world. The future of all human mobility is in wearable robotics, and it's coming. And if you happen to live in the technical and fashion that my worlds have come together in, it's an incredible time. And to see all of this rapid innovation in what we can do. I'm working on another project right now with the University of Alberta to bring soft robotics to clothing and to fashion.
Got it.
Yes.
Overly of both of those. But just, it's an incredible time for technology, for innovation, and having all of these worlds that I've lived in, these adventures that I've taken, coming together and all being in this same space and time now is really interesting. I will be turning 50 and 10 on the same birthday. So I'm a 50-year-old lady and I'm a 10-year-old paraplegic. I often talk about transformation in life, that shift of before or after spinal cord injury, is that everything happened either before or after. It's how you remember the dates in time. Anchor mark in time that changed. So I still struggle every day with that this happened to me. It seems so surreal to still not be able to jump out of bed on my own two legs and navigate my world, that it's still shocking to me. It feels like yesterday. But then again, it feels like a long time. I'm adapted pretty well. I know how to use that wheelchair for when I want to. But I also have an that I can dance in again. And and for a 10-year-old, that feels pretty good.
So the design, the way that things are fabricated, how materials work, and how to work them with your body, all of that knowledge and innovation, how that then set up to infuse into the after, where it's now about robotics and technology and engineering. And like you said, very, very different world, but also kind of the same.
As I say, I went from being a women-run business and mostly working with women to working with predominantly men. In engineering, in programming, in technology and math. And the flip side of that is also finance, right? Because it takes money to do these big projects. Like, this is like saying I'm, going to create an electric car or something, right? So kind of the same idea, but it
is.
It has been really challenging. I'll be honest. There's been days that have been extremely difficult to feel seen, heard, and remembered as a disabled woman in a predominantly male-dominated fields. It's challenging in all the ways that women talk about.
Do you find there's a lot of assumptions that happen?
Yes, there's a lot of assumptions that come with being a person in a wheelchair. Lots of people assume that you can't do a lot of things that you can do, or it's just the worst thing we can do to people is assume.
It's a good one to live by. And maybe along the line of assumptions, similar to what we're talking about with this community that we're building with halfbetty. It's a little bit like an existing narrative that has been formed over years by society and by all people. There's a narrative around what it is that they're not able to do. And we all, because maybe we don't ask questions or because we're not curious enough, we're not taking that moment to do as you've described. And that is, well, that's what the words say, but is that actually accurate? And so with halfbetty, the idea of there's a narrative around who women are and how we show up and what we're capable of in our midlives. And that narrative is largely accepted by the world, that when you're in your midlife as a woman, you are now less beautiful, you're less strong, you're less capable, you're less visible, all the things. And that's the narrative. But with any narrative, there's an opportunity to shift it. There's an opportunity to change that and to ask the questions, get into the conversations, form the communities, inform others, educate others, and then have all of us hold up the new narrative. So I love that you're shifting the narrative of what is possible for people who have disabilities or abilities that are different than those of able bodies. And I think that's an extraordinary undertaking.
So much of it is in all the points that you touched on is just really about being brave and being
persistent. Yes.
Just want to throw in the towel and wait till tomorrow and find those outlets to shake off that shit, which is great conversations with incredible women really help me a lot. And sort of refuel my gas tank with out there and be that challenging, encouraging, and relentless person making change. So I think you do need to have that self-care plan.
Totally do.
It does need to involve community around you, others who are in your space or like-minded people.
Can you talk
100%.
Can you talk more about the community that's come from this, not only in the technology side, but in all the other aspects of what this brings to your life? I'm very grateful because Chloë invites me to do hair and makeup when she's doing photo shoots and video shoots, and I get to meet such amazing people. I feel really grateful for that. So thank you, Chloë, for always inviting me. I was just wondering if maybe you could share what that feels like to be a part of this community.
Yeah. So as I said, I didn't even know a person in a wheelchair till I was in one. What an eye-opener of the incredible strength and spirit that it takes to live this life and how many people out there are living their best life, regardless of injury or outcome. As I started out saying, is that my experience, my journey through early injury, hospital, and rehabilitation was so bad. And I really didn't see enough peer involvement in early stages for people. There was so much more. Once I got out of that institutional area of the journey, I got to start to meet actual people who were living with spinal cord injuries and living with chairs and living with disability that they were overcoming. And it was the tips and the tricks of the experts that really got me like, oh, okay, this is how you can adapt and how things really work. And I was so vocally outspoken about how terrible my journey through the healthcare system was, that I ended up getting in with the bad kid club, which is awesome. The disruptors, the people who are out there really pushing change, being seen for where they are and who they are, not what their disability is and things. So ended up meeting really interesting people all the way along this journey of being in spinal cord injury. And I kind of felt that, well, one of my good friends, John, said to me, well, Chloë, are you just going to bitch about it or do you want to do something about it? Do you know that Praxis, the Spinal Cord Injury Institute in Vancouver, and the Health Standards Organization of Canada is looking to overhaul spinal cord injury care standards in Canada? You want a piece of that? You want to make a voice?
Let me just add that to my to-do list because I will.
How could I not? So I spent 7 years as the co-chair of the project to overhaul spinal cord injury care standards in Canada. So any accredited hospital moving forward will have to adopt these new policies and procedures that were actually curated, written, and put together by people with lived experience, such as myself. And it went from a 12-page document to an 82-page document that was certainly much more modern and what we need in the proper care of spinal cord injury in Canada. So we've just completed that project, and I have moved on to be on the advisory committee with the Rick Hansen Foundation with a group of other disruptors to overhaul rehabilitation and to create a gold standard of spinal cord injury care in BC. So with those groups, I'm super involved on overhauling spinal cord injury care standards and knowing that we can do better and do more. I'm also working on a project to highlight the incredible importance of fashion within the disabled community, and particularly after spinal cord injury, helping people find solutions that work and look good and feel good. So that's been an ongoing project for the last few years. And actually, Krista was really awesome to come on board and help with a photo shoot that we did recently for the Fashion Able, we call it.
Love it.
And it's a fashion guide for after spinal cord injury that will be coming out. We did a photo shoot, and all of the models, 3 men and 5 women, were all in wheelchairs or had different levels of injury. So we had an incredible opportunity to really showcase what diversity and adaptability truly looks like. And that was a really exciting day. And I can't wait to share that guide and those thoughts on, how important it is to have fashion in your life, and particularly after injury when you're really trying to find yourself again and trying to make things work with what you got now. And just to show that you can still put together a really cool, fashionable outfit that speaks volumes about yourself. And that's what we're advocating for and trying to have the healthcare system understand, is that part of our journey through recovery also needs to include fashion and the discussion of how clothes are and that you need to now rebuild your wardrobe, which is not an inexpensive feat. So, there needs to be support for that for people. And but it's such an important part of who we are. It's our first presentation to the world. It's our first conversation with somebody. If you come around the corner, you meet someone, usually they're looking at you first, and they are making judgments, assumptions. It's an interesting thing for me is how impactful fashion is. When you think about it, you think, it's a surface thing, and it's
not at all.
It can be very superficial, right? And I have, as I've mentioned, my sister works as a neonatal nurse, and she saving babies' lives every day. And there was a point in my career where I was thinking to myself, what have I chosen to do? This polluting industry, and my sister saves lives every day. Should I do something different? Should my life be more impactful for people? I don't know. This was a while back when I was, again, not the confident woman I am at looking at 50 and knowing who I am, but really wondering what impact I was going to make in the world for other people was what I was trying to look at. And then I had a lady come into my studio later that week, and she came in with tears in her eyes. And she said, Chloë, I just had to come and tell you that the outfit that you made me to go to my husband's Christmas party was everything. She said, I've been home with the kids for the last number of years. I finally had a chance to go to his holiday party this year, and I met him there. And when I walked in the room, he saw me for the first time in 20 years. And she just said, I feel like you saved my life.
Oh my gosh.
And that changed things for me. That day was another one of those transformative moments where you go, what I've chosen to do can have an impact in the world in a really positive way and can save somebody's life through fashion in a way that makes it so that women in particular, ladies in this midlife would be seen, heard, and remembered.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Wow.
You're incredible, Chloë. I've just so much admiration for you. And every time I think of you, I am inspired and encouraged. And I'm wondering, though, if you ever stop. Do you want to stop for a second and rest? Is resting in your vocabulary? Does your brain ever just turn off? Is that a possibility for you? Or do you want to? Maybe you don't want to.
They always say there's lots of time to sleep when you're dead. But no, I do get a little tired. But I have those things in my life that I do really try and focus on, that the things that refill my gas tank, that little tiny horse that I have.
Oh, Sunny.
So much joy. And when I need a little break, we just spend some time together, or he comes in the kitchen and we make dinner and just like my mind goes somewhere else. I have an incredible husband who has been my partner in life. We've been married 24 years. We've been together 30. I have this incredible husband who is a wonderful support system for me, and he follows me around and assists me to do whatever I can do. He's my man lift. I can go anywhere and do anything with him. My crazy ideas, he just says, okay. So I have an incredible support system at home, which is, I'm so lucky to have. And of all the things that I've done in my life, I have to say one of the things I'm most proud of is to have a successful marriage 24 years later. It's no easy feat. We all know.
Absolutely.
It's those things, but it's one of those life things that I check off as being like, right on. That's a good one. That's a good success story. So I like that.
That is a really good success.
It really is. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. Funny. I always thought in my life I wouldn't be married, that I'd have kids, because I didn't see the two going together. I didn't see in my life it was a good idea for ladies to have kids and a husband because they were kind of the same thing. Probably best to do one or the other.
Sure.
And honestly, I thought had children were more manageable. So, but I thought I would too. But then I met the husband first, and I thought, okay, well, I'll do the husband thing instead. And, we've always, it was never really in our plan to have kids. We always wanted to just be us, ourselves. And I always said, well, maybe I would have children if we lived to be 300 years old, but I don't have the time in this life.
No time.
We are the awesome aunt and uncle to 13 nieces and nephews.
Oh, gosh.
And we love them. So when we want kids, we just order them like pizza. We'll take a boy and girl.
I love that.
And see a Disney movie, or we'll take twins because we want to go and see Justin Bieber. Like,
oh my God,
that's for you.
Brilliant.
This is brilliant. It really is. It's very smart.
About shaping the life that we wanted. And as I said, having this nice balance of work and life and family in the way that works for us in a really great way. So I have all of those things. And other than that, I just can't resist the next adventure. It comes along my plate and I say, yeah.
You say, well, that's.
I was literally telling myself nothing more. My husband was like, honey, nothing more. Like, nothing. You can't. Like, you have nothing else you can fit in. You have to stop doing this. I'm like, okay, got it. Yep, got it.
So you'll just be on our podcast, but maybe in the future you can come alongside of us and have your own podcast. We'll be here for you if and when that's a possibility.
That's all I want to do is talk with you about the next.
There is so much. There is
what you're doing is so cool and so incredible, and I love it. When I got the email that said what you guys were focusing on and how halfbetty came to be baked, I guess, is
we're having a lot of fun. But the goal is to shine the light on women in their midlife and all the amazing things that we're doing.
Extraordinary things.
I mean, your story is so beautiful and inspiring. And the best part is you're one of the coolest people I know. And I think Laura Adkin, I'm going to give a shout out to Laura for introducing me because, I'm just so grateful to call you a friend and to be able to get to work with you every so often. I want to be here for you forever, whatever you need. I'm also the type of person that can't say no and have a husband who is incredibly kind and supportive. So I can also relate to that. But I know our audience can too. I'd love to share with our audience, with our listeners, how can they keep in touch with you, learn about what you're doing? We can put some information in the show notes and our resources on our website. So could you share with us a few things, social media or websites or anything that they can follow along?
Chloë Angus is my label. ChloéAngus.com is the website for my fashion. Humaninmotion.com is the website address for the wearable robotics. You've got to go on there and check that out. And then, of course, Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, it's all Chloë Angus or Chloë Angus Design on LinkedIn and Facebook. So go check those out. We can always stay in touch that way. Happy to connect with community and collaborate and continue to work together to make the change that we want to see.
It's all just the beginning, isn't it? That's the extraordinary part about all of this is that once those connections are made, then they are continuous. In some ways, it's like building that kind of woven thread of connection that fires constant energy between all of those that are part of it, making change, creating new things, innovating, designing, crafting, building. So it's such a powerful experience. And I'm so grateful that Krista, I'm so grateful for Krista. Full stop. I'll just put a period after that.
Full stop there too.
Full stop. I'm so grateful for Krista because she said when I said, hey, so I've won this contest to bring a podcast to life. She was already neck high in all of her world of all the things that she does. When I said, would you? And she said, yes, I'm in 100%. So I'm so grateful for Krista, full stop. And I'm so grateful for her introducing you to this conversation and for hearing your story that you so generously and beautifully shared with us. Because it is generous to share our stories where you can't get more personal than our own individual stories of both the things that we are lit up by and the things that made an attempt to hold us back. So thank you so much for trusting us and trusting our listeners to hear your story. And I wonder if you would do something for me as we pull this all together. What would that 92-year-old Chloë perhaps advise 50-year-old Chloë? What do you think that maybe she would say?
You should have taken more vacations.
Brilliant.
I'm pretty sure.
Brilliant. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And I look forward to being that 92-year-old lady. And I tell Gabe, I'll have my exoskeleton by then. And by then it will have arm portions too. And I will be carrying him up the stairs.
I love it. So more vacations and so much more of everything that you're doing. Thank you so, so much.
So awesome to chat with you. And I really feel invited into, the halfbetty community. And it's a great community you're building. And I'm just so excited to hear more of the conversations ongoing and cheering you ladies on for, all the hard work and the creativity that's going into this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's
Likewise.
a perfect segue to tell our listeners to head over to halfbetty.com. We're also on Instagram at halfbetty, LinkedIn. Please follow along. Please subscribe. We would love to hear from you. Reach out, share your stories, and pass on this podcast for anyone that you think it would really resonate with. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye, ladies.